Well, my name's Travis Crowder. I'm the director of the Boys and Girls Club of Mason Valley here in Urington. And I guess what I do for a living is I work with youth. That's, in all forms of youth development. We have Boys and Girls Club sites all throughout Lyon County. And it's something that we're very blessed to have a great relationship with a school district that allows us in. And so every single day, every day of the year, we are serving kids in our club sites and trying to make a difference in their lives.
Yeah. And you've been here and at the club. You've actually been here from the beginning, right?
Yes, I've been here going on, this will be my 13th year with the Boys and Girls Club here.
Lucky 13.
Lucky 13. It was here, and then I spent 5 years with the Boys and Girls Club in Carson, so January 20th will be 18 years for me.
Do I have a feeling you kind of have an affinity with the Boys and Girls Club?
You know what? Let's put it this way. I don't know anything else. Right now, if I tried something else, I'd be lost. It is just something that has been, I've been blessed. I jokingly tell people I haven't worked a day in my life. I'm very fortunate to do what I love, surrounded by good people. So for me, it's my calling. It's the only thing I know, but it's the only thing I care to know, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah.
In 13 years, what have you seen transpire here, and certainly in the last few years?
Yeah, quite a bit.
In terms of the health of the community.
Yeah, quite a bit. I've actually, when I first came out here, it was amazing. I came out here, and what caught my eye about this community and many of the communities in Lyon County is very family oriented. And when I first came out here, it was something that I came to this building that at the time was just a very they were doing some renovating. They were getting it ready to be a Boys and Girls Club. Now, mind you, I came from Carson City, where at the time, their Boys and Girls Club operated out of about 5,000 square feet for a community that size. So I come out here to Urington and I see a Boys and Girls Club being built upwards of almost 20,000 square feet in a community of about 3,500 people. And it was very apparent to me that this is where I want to be. This is a community that really does focus on their families and their kids. And so early days, it was very positive. We had a very, I wouldn't say amazing economy, but a healthy economy, and which transpired to us because in a Boys and Girls Club, like many nonprofits, you do depend on your community to stay afloat, especially the private sector. And in those early days, when it was healthy and strong, so were we. And we were seeing very good revenue base coming in from the private sector, from donations. The last handful of years, that hasn't been the case. And that's where we've had to make tough decisions and do things to try to keep us here and strong and vibrant, where also on the flip side, when economy and the community does take a beating like it has over the last few years, the demand for our services go up. And in that time, in the last couple of years, we've also, I think 4 or 5 years now, we've been doing the food bank for this end of the county. And that is something where we clearly saw the big jump and big difference. We went from, when we first started it back in 06, 07, seeing a little over 100 families, to in 08, 09, 010, upwards of 250 to 300 families every month. Matter of fact, we just did the food bank today. And sure enough, I arrived at work at 5 o'clock this morning. We don't even open the doors till 8. And there was about 15 to 20 senior citizens lined up out our front door.
Wow.
So it's something that over the past, since 2008, 2009, it's been very challenging around here, and we do feel for our families who we are serving more now than we ever have before.
Yeah.
And it's just been a very difficult time.
And this has been a situation that I'm aware of where your revenue sources are shrinking and your demand is going up.
Yeah,
and it's just not youth, like you point out. It's the
everywhere,
food bank
all across the board. Yeah,
right.
We feed the youth every day for free, every day. And as it is now, we've been fortunate to charge kids $10 a year to be a member. So that's the way it was 13 years ago. It's the way it is today. But like you said, the numbers have gone up and the demand has gone up. But on the flip side, because of the economy and the situation that our community's been in, the private sector giving has been way down, and which we get. Don't get me wrong. We don't sit here going, what happened, you guys? Why aren't you giving? We live here. We know what's going on. I mean, the fact is people are having to choose between rent and food and clothing. I mean, when it comes to making difficult decisions, donating to causes is unfortunately one that we understand gets cut. And so that being the case, significantly. I mean, we're talking upwards of 75, 80% reductions from our high years.
Yeah.
Which in a Boys and Girls Club where our budget is well over $1 million a year to keep all of our club sites in operation, having those kind of cuts from the private sector make it very difficult to do our job.
Right. So you're serving basically, of course, the core is here in Urington, but you have functions courtesy of the school district.
Courtesy of the school district.
Silver
Yeah.
Springs and Dayton.
Yes, we have 4 sites in Dayton, and then we have a site in Silver Springs, all courtesy of the school district, the Lyon County School District, and the Boys and Girls Club have a very strong relationship, and we have been for a number of years now. And truthfully, it's the only way that we were able to, especially during these economic times, it was the only way that we could reach out and be able to serve kids in those outlying areas. And a lot of how that took place, here we go again with budget scenarios. A lot of why that happened was because the county was having to cut back extremely, and I mean extreme cutbacks in terms of their budgets for the same reason this community got hit hard. And when that happened, they had to eliminate the recreation programs that they were offering and providing throughout the county, which was these after school and summertime type youth programs in these outlying areas. They had to eliminate them. So they came to us saying, please help. Well, the only way that we could respond and that the Boys and Girls Club could get involved would be if we could have some place we needed to call home where we could make it work. And then in came the Lyon County School District to basically with open arms saying, hey, let's go ahead. You guys, if you're going to take over for the county, we're going to open up our doors at the school so you have a facility to work with. And that's the way it's been the last couple of years, and it's worked out beautifully. Between the 4 sites in Dayton, the site in Silver Springs, our teen center next door, and then our Boys and Girls Club here, we collectively are serving well over 300 kids every day with an active membership of just over 1,300 total. And again, these kids are paying $10 a year. Mm-hmm. So it's something that we know that when times are difficult, we can't expect to get it out of our parents when we run into difficult times, because they are too. So we do rely heavily on grants and foundations and businesses like Nevada Copper, mm-hmm. that have stepped up and help us. And it does put a tremendous amount of importance on our fundraisers to be not only successful, but to basically take over for the loss that we receive from the private sector.
From just pure donations.
Correct.
Let's talk a little bit about what your perspective. You see youth every day, mm-hmm. and you see the youth that are coming out of the program and going on. How would you characterize the character of the social fabric of the community?
We try to put in, we call it character and leadership. Those are 2 big areas for us. We do have programs that are in place to we call them Torch Club, Keystone Club. These are leadership programs that we provide. Matter of fact, we have one that's called Leaders in Training as well. And our whole purpose is to help. We refer to it as a moral compass, working with these young people to hopefully help make them successful adults. Much like Mr. Nick Beaton, who's
that?
We know that guy really well. And
he's
Nick,
on the other side.
He's on the other side of the camera. Yeah, he's the behind the scenes guy. But Nick is an example of what we try to do. Kids that started coming to the club when they were little bitty guys, and by their involvement in being around the club and being around the programs, not only did we hope anyways to help shape him in terms of what he is today, but he's a confident young man because he was given a lot of opportunities, not just through the schools, but through the club and some of the things that we did too. So he had the opportunity to shine. So we try that aspect with a lot of the kids. And one of the things we do, and I think we do a pretty good job, is we have a program called the Youth of the Year program, where we specifically, target some of these young people that have gone above and beyond and displayed some great character and leadership, qualities. And we try to build on that and give them the opportunities through the club and through some of our programs that give them that chance to shine. Mm-hmm.
And I recall that first Youth of the Year banquet I went to, and Nick, our videographer today, he did that presentation. I said, wow, that's good stuff. I've got to get that guy to work for me.
Yeah, from like a 16, 17-year-old kid, and he's there with you. Yeah, and we had last year our Youth of the Year was a young lady by the name of Marissa Spurlock.
Oh yes, I was on the committee.
You had the difficult task.
I said after I saw her, I said I want to go back to first grade when she becomes a teacher.
And we've been very blessed. I mean, as much as we have a hand in I think in terms of the young people they turned out to be. For us, though, we're also blessed to have them around us. They're, a couple, occasionally you'll come across some quality teenagers. And the Youth of the Year banquet and program, I think, is one of our strong points because others in the community get to see the best of our work, I suppose you would say. And I mean, these are kids that and young people that we're most proud of and really have just been, like in Nick's case, club kid through and through. I mean, he grew up here, been here, you know, and also shaped the minds of the other kids. When he comes through the club, even on vacations and breaks, he's kind of a rock star. All the kids want to flock to him, so it works out pretty good. But, and matter of fact, you know, with us, we have our upcoming, you know, Youth of the Year banquet, and we hope to have, you know, the same kind of experience with a new batch of kids, and be able to showcase, you know, what we have, what's best about us.
Yes. Now, but the Boys and Girls Club has a staff here.
You bet. Collectively, a big staff. And that's, I think, some of the things that people need to understand. Definitely, we rely heavily on volunteers. Do not get me wrong. And we need them. But in the same token, we have paid staff, upwards of almost 40 total for organizations. You know, if you can imagine this, when I started working with the Boys and Girls Club 13 years ago, this club here, our annual budget at that time, now, mind you, we hadn't officially opened the whole building to the kids, but our budget back then in 2000 was a little over $250,000 a year, which is still a healthy budget for a nonprofit in general. That was in the early days, one clubhouse and about 5 of us staff. That was when the numbers weren't what they were today and the demand wasn't what they are today, which is a great thing. But now, you know, we're upwards of almost 1.5 million in a community, you know, in Lyon County where unemployment rate is up over 15%, where budgets across the board are being cut. Not only were we fortunate enough to budget wisely and do our best, but we did not have to cut our staff, and we did not have to cut our services, but we have had to hold tight at a level for a number of years, surviving basically on and being very dependent on grants and federal resources, state and local grants, and our fundraisers. And we have been fortunate that during these economic times, our main fundraiser stayed strong, you know, when others were struggling, and we get that. I mean, and we're very fortunate because with our fundraiser, as you know from being in this community, we're very fortunate because that's outside money coming in. There's no way we could raise that kind of revenue in our own communities or our own backyards, again, because the economy in Lyon County is rough. You know, so we've been very fortunate to have outside money coming in, not just for us, but of course this whole community benefits pretty strongly that weekend from a large crowd source. Yeah.
And let's talk about the future. I mean, what part of, you know, let's be clear here. We're advocating on behalf of a company that's going to come in here and hopefully be a major player in the economy. We've gotten a lot of community support, a lot of community relationships, mutually beneficial for us and for the clubs and the organizations we've been with. But let's look at that, you know, and everybody. What do you envision in 3 to 5 years if we can accelerate development of this mine? What would you visualize for the Boys and Girls Club under a better economy?
And I think that's the key word, better economy. I mean, I think the best thing I can say there is a strong economy. You know, I haven't seen that. I mean, we've had better economies, don't get me wrong, but, you know, you talk to people around here and you see what that kind of level of jobs, you know, in terms of hundreds of jobs mean. To me, it would go back to the days of when, in this community, mining was vibrant and strong. And when, especially the locals that have been here longer than myself, that's when this community was strong, you know, economically. I can't wait to experience those days because this is what I envision.
So in 13 years, you're saying, from what people tell you, you haven't seen that.
I have not been blessed to see what it was like back when everybody here was working here, where they weren't having to commute, where you had families moving to town instead of moving out. You know, I have not seen that kind of an impact because it was kind of at a decent, you know, scenario up until about 08, where it was okay. It was never great. It was okay. Now, even then, it was very construction related, which also took a heavy hit to where it went just into doldrums. So to get it to a level that I haven't even seen, I'm very excited. I think, you know, for a number of reasons. One, obviously getting our parents and families back to work would mean a great deal for the young people we serve. That would be number one. Number two, I look at our food bank, who is widely hit by families and seniors, a population base where the trickle-down effect would even help them. But I also look at it in terms of, you're looking at a county who has had tremendous cuts. You know, any kind of tax base and revenue, county and city. My wife works for the city. She's the bookkeeper for the city of Yerington. So I know on both sides. I look at what a tax base could do for the county and for the city, which, again, the trickle-down effect to everybody in those services that need it. It would be nice. It would be nice to not have to need the food bank. You know, the reality is, I know, you know, we're going to need it, but the level that we have now, it would be nice to get it back down to where
it should be the exception and not the rule, right?
I want to arrive to work on a food bank day and not have people that have waited out in line for hours in the morning at 10-degree weather to get 2 bags of groceries. You know, and so, you know, there's so much of a trickle down effect that you see from bringing in those kind of paying jobs too. You guys have the mining in general has very good paying jobs to where they talk about, you know, well, you're going to have people leaving, you know, potentially leaving other positions in the county and city and moving up. Well, that's a trickled up effect and a trickle down effect. Either way, they're jobs, you know, and I'm excited because I can already see bits and pieces of it in the sense of, it's nice to see a few new businesses coming to town, and especially some that are building from the ground up. And I would guess that, you know, a lot of that is to do with the, you know, the notion of what's coming, not necessarily what's here right now, but what's coming. And I think the mines are central to that point.
And you're a resident of Yerington, right? You live in Yerington?
Yes, I do. I live right downtown, yeah.
You live in Yerington. You're on the planning commission?
I'm on the planning commission.
So, I mean, part of this proposition is not just about mining. It's about creating an area where the city of Yerington can actually do something and develop as a planning commissioner.
Yeah, which I'm really excited
Well, there's two
too.
things. You know, Yerington does not get a share of the taxes without the land transfer. And then 3, they've never had a suitable piece of property to develop. So, you know, I don't think a lot of people get that. But as a planning commissioner, what's your perspective?
I do. Growth. Again, I mean, I look at it, growth, you know, because everybody I think sometimes thinks of growth in terms of just houses. But the reality is growth in terms of industry is not a bad thing. You know, I know you've got people, and there are people in town, and I get it, that aren't a big fan of growth. And I get that. But you've got to be able to, in my mind, be able to employ and have a healthy economy for the young people that are here. And sometimes some of our retired folks need to realize and remember what it was like when they were younger. And, you know, they had the luxury of the mines and some of these things that were bringing in the healthy jobs that are no longer the case. And so thinking back, they've got to realize what a great thing that is. Yerington is not going to turn into a Reno or those circumstances. It's not going to be a booming metropolis, but boy, the opportunity of that land acquisition for business and industry, the multi-use space, which is definitely critical to the club's success, you know, and the tax-based revenue that would be resulting for the city, a city who also has been pinching pennies like you wouldn't believe. Yeah. You know, those doors that open up, it does mean more jobs. It does mean a healthier economy. And you know what? Why is it a bad thing to have some resources and businesses and everything start up here that, you know, may be able to keep people from having to drive an hour and a half to go get their groceries and things like that?
And, you know, getting back to the kids, you interact with these, from little kids to young adults.
Oh, right.
What is your perception? You're seeing young people, there's not, would they come back to this community if there was something here? Is that your perception?
Absolutely. And we know several families that we've had to lose. I can think of one of them was a board member of ours that was somebody who'd been in this community virtually their whole lives, and a family of 4 or 5 kids, one still in the school system. And unfortunately, they had to move. He had lost his job and couldn't find any employment here. And this is a guy who's skilled. It's not like he doesn't have a skill set, but there just wasn't those positions available here. And he had to uproot and move his family to Elko, an area where the mining and the economy was much stronger. And that is one that, in a heartbeat, would come back because this was home for them. They did not want to leave. They had to leave. He's one example. There are several where that is the case. My event coordinator, her husband is currently working up in the Elko area because that's where the jobs are and that's where he could find work. He's a prime example of one in a heartbeat, would come back and want to make this home again. And they've got 2 little ones of their own. These are scenarios that I see playing out across the boards. I definitely know there'd be families that would want to come back, but I also know there'd be new families that would want to come in and get some new blood in here. I think we all love it when a new family comes to town. One thing about Yerington, it may not have all the bells and whistles of the bigger cities, but it is a great town to raise your family and raise your kids. There's a lot of opportunity here, especially for a small town, but there's also a lot of community support. This place has been very, very good to the Boys and Girls Club, but it's been good to all youth programs. You watch the programs that take place here, whether it's a football game and the stands are packed to watch a football game, or it's a volleyball championship, or the play down at the Yerington Theater of the Arts. No matter what it is, this town's always been supportive. To be able to get some fresh blood and some new families in here would just be a breath of fresh air.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they would come back. There's no doubt in my
Yeah,
mind.
yeah. Any other final comments or
Final comments.
thoughts?
Well, I guess excitement. I think more than anything, I think there's genuine excitement that, you know, if the lands bill and these things get, you know, pushed through and everything goes, you know, we'd love to see it happen. And it, to me, there's nothing but positives. And I think most everybody's done their homework, and it looks very, very good, I think, for everybody involved.
Good, thanks. Thanks, Travis.
No problem. Thank you,
Good
Tim.
talking to you.
Appreciate it.